Okay, it's just gone 11:30. Welcome to today's session. My name is Matt Crofts. We're talking all things security with our partner AWS. As I said, my name's Matt Crofts. I head up the Simple Fund and Simple Invest 360 products. Today, I'm going to be joined by Clayton Brown from AWS. He will take you through some of the architecture and what the BGL applications are built on, and Clayton is a principal solution architect at Amazon Web Services. So we'll make a start. So a little bit of housekeeping. Today's webinar is being recorded. You will receive an email with a recording of this particular session. We'll also send out a PDF of the slides, so no need to take copious notes. Please feel free to ask questions during the session. I'm going to hand over now to Clayton Brown. Clayton, as I switch slides, is going to take you through some of the security that Amazon help with the shared model that BGL run on.
Thanks, Matt. Just confirming I'm coming through.
I can hear you, Clayton.
Excellent. So thank you for joining this session, and thanks to Matt and the BGL team for the invitation to present to your customers. As Matt said, my name's Clayton Brown, and I work with customers and partners here in the Australia region, both in financial services sector, and my focus is with ISVs, where I support software companies to build secure solutions on top of our platform as part of our ecosystem. Before joining AWS 8 years ago, I worked for a global SaaS vendor for around 7 years, handling most of their security and compliance customer queries across APAC, again, with a financial services customer focus. What I wanted to discuss today was to talk through some of the cloud security fundamentals and to give you some context around how we work with our customers and partners around improving their cloud security and posture. Just moving, sorry, getting the slide transition corrected there. So AWS, firstly, what is cloud? AWS provides infrastructure or data centers on which our customers use over 200 unique services to compose applications with. You can think of it like a giant Lego set for building internet-connected services. The most disruptive aspect of this model is that the customers no longer purchase or lease these IT assets. They can rent it by the second, and we charge them on a volume of use as a utility. Such as gas or electricity. This has democratized access for all customers, from the very smallest startup to the largest enterprises or government organizations. Today, the AWS global infrastructure is comprised of over 80 availability zones within 25 geographic regions or jurisdictions. We've announced plans for 15 more availability zones and 6 more regions, across 6 more regions, India, Indonesia, Japan, Spain, Switzerland, and more recently, the announcement of a Melbourne region, my hometown. The AWS region or AZ model, which is really a cluster of data centers within a specific geography, has been recognised by industry analysts as the recommended approach for running enterprise applications that require high availability. AWS provides more than double the regions with these multi-availability zones than the next largest cloud provider. And AWS delivers within these many features and capabilities over time. Over the last 12 months, closing out the year at 2020, we delivered over 281 security and compliance features alone. With AWS, you can leverage the latest technologies to experiment and innovate more quickly, and we're continually accelerating our pace of innovation. If we look back at 2011, we released just 80 significant services and features. In 2012, we doubled that to 160, and we've continued this rate of increase in innovation around new capabilities, closing out 2020 with 2,757 new capabilities or services. With millions of active customers and tens of thousands of ISV partners globally, AWS has the largest and most dynamic community. There is a real network effect when you use AWS, and customers across virtually every industry and of every size, including startups, enterprises, and public sector organizations, are running every imaginable use case now on AWS. At AWS, security is our top priority, or job zero, as we like to call it. So what does that mean? If you look at cybersecurity as a breakdown of people, process, and technology, you'll note the following about AWS. In people, we have a dedicated security organization, given the importance of security to our business. Our CISO, Steve Schmidt, reports directly to our CEO, Andy Jassy. This is relatively unique. Security normally reports in through a CIO or a chief risk officer in most mature businesses. From process, as a result of this reporting line, we have processes in place to ensure that the security of our business is discussed amongst the most senior people at an incredibly frequent basis. Another process that we hold dearly is that AWS doesn't have access to customer data. Our customers retain ownership and control over the data they host in AWS. Additionally, we routinely prevent and reduce human access to our own data. We embrace automation to ensure that humans are kept as far away from data as possible. On the technology front, if you look at the kit bag of tools and technology available to an AWS customer, you'll notice a wealth of security tools and features amongst them. However, the very first tool that's used by a new AWS user is our native security tool, AWS Identity and Access Manager, and security groups. We'll talk to those a little bit later. So what does the prioritization of security mean for our customers? Well, if you go back 12, 24 months, you'll see there's a huge shift in customer perception with regards to the types of workloads, the sensitivity of those workloads, and the types of data that customers are putting into the public cloud. So let's take a look at some of those views of our customers. Our customers are very open in discussing what AWS has meant to their cloud journeys and how they've utilized cloud security to improve their people, process, and technology as they evolve to keep their business more secure. Duncan Ritchie, Xero's Chief Platform and Product Officer, has cited how the AWS platform enables faster innovation whilst delivering an increase in both uptime and security posture to drive better outcomes for their customer. NIB Health Insurance spoke during our 2019 Sydney Summit on moving systems of record workloads to the cloud and how their journey allowed them to unlock innovation whilst maintaining security and compliance. And NAB Bank have joined us on stage many times, speaking about their strict governance they apply to decide which services their staff can consume and how they can apply those controls in real time through automation to achieve governance at scale. Zinja, an Australian neobank, spoke recently how they rapidly built a neobank in the cloud, also while maintaining compliance with their regulator, APRA, and taking into account other regulations like PCI DSS for payment card data. So why has this shift occurred from customers being relatively unknown and unsure about the cloud to now being very public about telling the world that the cloud is good and more secure than the traditional environments they've been able to manage? Today, AWS supports more security standards and compliance certifications than any other cloud provider, including PCI DSS, HIPAA, GDPR, FedRAMP, many other standards. This helps our customers satisfy their compliance requirements for virtually every regulatory agency around the globe. Every regulator subjects our platform to, AWS regularly subjects our platform services to these third-party validations and maintains evidence of controls against thousands of compliance requirements. And we continually monitor these to help customers meet their own security and compliance standards for finance, retail, healthcare, government, and beyond. Customers who build on the AWS platform effectively inherit the latest security controls operated by AWS, strengthening their own compliance and certification controls evidence, whilst receiving access to tools that they can use to reduce cost and time to manage their own specific security assurance requirements. As with this model, if we improve the capability and posture for one customer, all customers immediately benefit from having access to this enhancement to the underlying platform and subsequent third-party audit evidence produced against these and many other standards we subject the platform to. It's not a bespoke customization for a single customer, but an improvement to the core offering for all customers to enjoy. As I mentioned earlier, security is AWS's top priority. We listen intently to our customers to offer a secure cloud computing environment, innovative security services, and we partner with some of the world's leading cybersecurity technology and consulting organizations to satisfy security and compliance needs of the most risk-sensitive organizations. As I've mentioned, our customers openly discuss ways in which the cloud has helped them transform their security, people, process, and technology. Whether it's in building an internal security culture, which allows them to bring security into the conversation early when developing business critical applications, or whether it's achieving visibility and control across enterprise IT assets at scale, or whether it's demonstrating compliance and auditability to their regulatory community via increased use of automation, our customers are increasingly willing to share the success they've had in transformational change that cloud security has empowered them to undertake. In the old world, the trade-off was always move fast or stay secure. In the cloud, our customers constantly tell us that through the measures explained above, they're now able to move fast and stay secure. So let's dive in and have a bit more look as to why that's the case. If you're an AWS customer or partner, you'll really be familiar with what we term the shared responsibility model. If you're a new customer or partner, it's important that they become familiar with this concept of the shared responsibility model. The shared responsibility model is our most important concept at AWS, especially when we talk about security. It underpins the terms and conditions that we have in place with our customers, and it dictates the way that we build AWS services behind the scenes. We hope it influences the way customers consume these services at scale. Put simply, there are a number of responsibilities that are ours as the cloud service provider, such as the security of the global infrastructure to keep it secure and available, and the fundamental security of the core services that we offer on it that make up the behinds infrastructure. Keeping that secure and available is our responsibility as the cloud service provider. Customers also have responsibility as well. When a customer chooses to use one of those services, when they configure that service, they make security decisions about the implementation of those services. These are the responsibilities of the customer, and this can include things like changing access permissions on storage or enabling multi-factor authentication on identity flows. The industry calls these below responsibilities, these below the line responsibilities, security of the cloud, and the above the lines of responsibilities we call security in the cloud. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we help customers and guide them through their security responsibilities in the cloud. So we break security into 5 key areas as outlined in our Cloud Adoption Framework white paper. These align to things such as the NIST framework for cybersecurity, and the way we think about security is through these 5 key areas in a specific order for a reason. I mentioned IAM earlier, and IAM is our customer's primary and most important security control. Why is this? Well, access model is different to what customers are traditionally used to. When building traditional infrastructure, you would provision physical infrastructure, install upon that a set of applications, and then give someone else access. But in AWS, it's the opposite. We give you access to the environment. We use a set of applications to provision virtual infrastructure, and you determine who to provide access to and how to control that access. It's one of the most important security decisions baked into the core of all service offerings in the way that they can interact with each other through a least permissive, deny by default, and open up based security model. I won't go through all of those services specifically here, but if you want further information on any of these services, we'd be happy to share and discuss details about them as part of the follow-up. To assist customers understand and document which services to use against their responsibilities and the capabilities in the shared responsibility model, we developed the AWS WellArchitected Framework. This is a tool that enables our customers to document their workloads and benchmark themselves against known best practice, as well as stay abreast of new and emerging ones on a regular basis. It incorporates many best practices from industry, such as the NIST Cybersecurity Framework and the Centre of Internet Security, or CIS, best practices, as well as many specific best practices for architecture and service configuration to ensure customers understand how to align their security posture and other architecture facets, such as resilience, operations, performance, and cost efficiency against their goals and known best practice. We have extensions to the base framework, which covers a base set of best practices for a wide variety of workloads. And they have extensions for areas such as data lakes or financial services or SaaS platforms with specialized advice around best practices for more specific workload configurations, which can be layered in on top of the base assessment over time. And via our well-architected program for partners, we also help our customers ensure that partners delivered workloads, or where they have partners help them build workloads, this is also aligned to best practice. When we talk about cloud security with our customers, we focus on these 5 core categories, which is we refer to as security epics. These are 5 areas outlined in our cloud adoption framework, which there's a link at the bottom, and it's also listed on our public website. And these 5 core epics make up the security pillar of well-architected reviews. It shows the categories customers must address to build and operate securely in the cloud. And when we discuss these elements with customers, we discuss them in a specific order. So as I previously mentioned, we start with the identity and access management foundations in IAM, and how they control the access is one of the most important pieces and decisions around how to operate within the cloud. Secondly, we focus on threat detection and using baseline services such as CloudTrail and GuardDuty so that customers can take advantage of the increased visibility they get from building on AWS. Next, we talk about infrastructure protection, which allows our customers to protect their network and patches the infrastructure against things using features such as security groups, web application firewalls, and advanced automatic DDoS protection through AWS Shield. In data protection plays another major role in a layered security approach, and we help our customers by having conversations around encryption of data at rest and in use in transit by leveraging services such as KMS and ACM, and having conversations around classification of data and how that data is protected via services such as Macy. Finally, we come to incident response, where we guide our customers to establish runbooks to prepare for incident response plans when their unexpected happens by automating responses to incidents and integrating our services to monitor their AWS environments and respond to threats. So having conversations with our customers around these topics outlined in this slide is a great way we help enable our customers mature and harden their cloud security controls, and implementing these controls helps our regulated customers in managing both their compliance obligations and evidence for audits as well. Amazon knows customers care deeply about privacy and data security, and we optimize our work to get these issues right for customers. We have a team across the globe able to assist our customers' legal teams understand and interpret these policies and how to operate in accordance with them based on their specific circumstance. For AWS clients, we offer strong encryption capabilities, one of the many standard security features, and we provide customers the option to manage their encryption keys entire lifecycle. We publish security best practices and documents on our website, and encourage our clients to use these measures to protect any sensitive content. And our clients maintain full control over the content and where it resides and how they wish to protect it. Some good local example resources, these artifacts also include our white papers of using AWS in the context of the Australian Privacy Principles or National Privacy Principles legislation, and quick starts and implementation guides to help customers quickly adopt and adhere to local standards such as IRAP compliance or industry standards such as PCI and many other such requirements. These guides further highlight for our customers the abilities and responsibilities for managing the content they store within our services and security controls at their disposal. And in addition to this guidance, the AWS Support Organisation offers security incident response services, as well as advanced monitoring and detection capabilities, which software as a service providers can leverage and integrate into their own teams and processes to improve their incident detection and response capabilities. So this allows ISVs within the AWS platform to get on with doing what they do best, which is to rapidly deliver new capabilities and features in their software as a service offerings, and delighting their customers without having to build this robust security posture themselves, and staff this with a global team of experts providing follow-the-sun monitoring and support. What this means to their customer in this model is faster delivery of new software versions and features, always being on the latest versions, and reduced downtime through planned and unplanned events, enhanced monitoring and alerting and capabilities around their critical assets. This helps them focus on aspects such as accelerated development times through automation, improved change management techs, reducing or eliminating planned downtime, and leverage of new platform capabilities such as machine learning and other such features which can surprise and delight their customers. By leveraging this broader ecosystem with the solution on the AWS platform, we're seeing further benefits around secure integration patterns using private networking and platform messaging capabilities to further reduce the security risks in integrations with third parties. And as both software providers and AWS hold responsibility and have visibility into the operating of these workloads, the end customers stand to benefit from the enhanced monitoring, alerting, and incident response capabilities that the platform security features surface and integrate with their software vendors. I'd now like to ask Matt Crofts to provide some insights into what hosting and operating their services on the AWS platform has meant to their business and customer security improvement over time.
Thanks, Clayton. Look, that was certainly a great insight for those that aren't aware of Amazon Web Services and how we partner with Amazon. Really been a partner with us for 9 years. So what I wanted to cover was more a little bit of how that shared responsibility model works with Amazon. I'll just share my screen now and just pick up from where Clayton left off. But Clayton's going to hang around for any questions, so feel free to put any questions in the Q&A. And I'll go through some of the more practical areas, I guess. My background's more around accounting and SMSF and also a lot of IT, but just to sort of explain this to you in a slightly simpler format, where the shared responsibility sits in the cloud. As Clayton's mentioned, huge amount of infrastructure, huge amount of resources that Amazon provide us for that level of security, that really network, compute, database and storage layers that we use. We use a lot of the Amazon services, and then BGL sits on top of that. We've got our internal developers, our DevOps operation, our BGL security team. They handle the next layer of that shared responsibility. We run penetration tests, we run data encryption continuously. We've got constant monitoring of secure code practices and training, and obviously the data retention and all the necessary privacy requirements for storing that data. Then I guess what I was going to go through a little bit was really to try to provide the accountants and the advisors on the line and I guess their IT guys with a little bit of practical stuff around the actual client side of managing passwords, because there is also a responsibility. It's really a partnership, as Clayton was mentioning, between BGL, Amazon and yourself when it comes to proper cloud security. So this is just a little bit of timeline for those that may be new or maybe using our desktop solutions. BGL has been operating in the cloud since 2009 with our portal product. We originally hosted that with a third-party provider. I won't mention their name with Amazon on the call, but we moved as soon as Amazon were in Australia. We're one of the first clients. Our engineers actually attended the Rialto when Amazon was tiny and just come to Australia. That was back in 2012. Clayton and me were talking a bit about that earlier. It's really been a strong partnership. It's been going on. They've helped educate us in the security. We follow their well-architected framework. We're continually architecting for the cloud. And we launched our first full cloud product in 2014, being Simple Fund. We then launched our CAS product 2017. And more recently, we launched our Simple Invest product, in fact, only 2 days ago, which is based on the same secure model and all running on the AWS architecture. 2020, we got our ISO certification. What that means is now to operate in the tax office requirements, and certainly Amazon already had a lot of these certifications, as Clayton mentioned, but this was also important for BGL to get this to ensure our people and our data security practices were audited by third parties. So that is something we have audited every single year, and we're running penetration tests on the code every 6 months. So it's something we take very seriously. SMSF, there is a lot of private data. It is a shared responsibility with Amazon. We know there's a few desktop clients on the call, so I didn't want to forget about them. The shared model, you obviously don't have the benefit of Amazon and that huge infrastructure, the huge level, massive government websites throughout the entire globe run on Amazon these days. So you're missing out a lot with that on the desktop solution, but we're still ensuring that we follow best practice with that desktop software, but there's a lot more responsibility on yourselves. There's also the ATO access that you need to think about. So we'll cover off a little bit on that as well. As I mentioned, when you're working on desktop solutions. A lot of people think the cloud's scary when they're moving across. I actually see the opposite way. I've been working with BGL for 22 years, and I've seen much more secure, dangerous things happen in the desktop environment because you guys don't have the time to put all into security. You don't have the expertise, but you still have to maintain your servers, or your IT team has to maintain that. They have to maintain the firewalls on desktop, and you have to maintain an adequate level of staff security with secure documents. Whenever you're dealing with the ATO as a tax agent, you're actually signing off saying that you're storing all the data and the documents and you're keeping that private. And that puts a lot of extra pressure that may not be in your expertise, might not be in your realm of expertise. So that's really something you've got to consider when you're running the desktop solutions. With the ATO, these are things, there's constant best practice coming out from the ATO. These are sort of things you want to be watching out for. Financial institutions, when it comes to SMSF, the bank account details, the electronic service address, which is what's used for SuperStream, the authorized contact, and the members' details. Now, they are stored in the Simple Fund software, but have a think about where you're storing those outside the BGL software, whether you're printing them, think about that level of security. The good thing is, if any of these change now, the ATO has implemented an email that notifies you if someone actually changes these details. So that goes out to the trustee, and the tax agent also gets notified. So you've got some notification that if someone's trying to change bank account details or electronic service addresses, trying to defraud the system, you will get those notifications. So have a look at the ATO website. There's lots of information about best practice. It's very relevant for SMSFs as well as, small businesses as well, that you follow those best practices. In Simple Fund, we've made it mandatory. This is for CAS and Simple Fund. We've made it mandatory to have two-factor authentication. We looked at originally just having username, password, and giving you the option. But once we looked at the ATO regulations, it really was multi-factor. So I'm sure you guys are fairly familiar with multi-factor now. We do prefer using authentication device over SMS. SMS does have the hazard of SIM swapping. It doesn't really happen too much in Australia at this present point in time, but SIM swapping is where you get a PIN number sent to your mobile device when you go and log in. The authenticator is where you use either Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator. There's a lot out there. I use Authy. It's a great tool, but they're basically just running generation codes. We recommend, or my personal recommendation would be to use the authenticator. There is a risk with SMS that someone could get hold of your SIM card by ringing up the Telstra provider or whoever it is and trying to get the phone number changed to their particular phone and get a new SIM sent out. So it's not happening that common, but it's something, if you can avoid it, the authenticator is something you can. So you can switch that in the software. That's just one of the tips I would recommend if you want to ensure your staff are logging in securely. We've also got SAML, what we call single sign-on with other providers as well. So we link in with Gmail, we link in with Practice Protect, and we link in with Xero. So this is where these particular providers are storing your user credentials with their multi-factor. And some of the benefits there that you may achieve by using these is you have one login for multiple applications. Okay. Now, if you're just BGL only client, you can use the same login credentials for My BGL, for our help files, for CAS, Simple Fund, and Simple Invest. But if you're a heavy Xero user, you might want to use those credentials. So it means if a staff member happens to depart your practice, your IT guys would only have to remove it once out of 0, and then it will be removed out of the BGL apps, or hence the same with if you use Google. Or Practice Protect can put all your applications, even your desktop applications or certain desktop applications, under one single sign-on. Okay, so they're options when you log into the software, you can set that up. We've also implemented email notifications now. So this runs off an Amazon service called Cognito. All right, so this is where we use best practice Amazon. That's why we want to have Amazon on the call today to answer any questions. If you do have them, put them in the chat. But this is where, if you're changing locations frequently, you will be receiving these sort of emails, okay? Or if, we don't give away all the credentials, and I'm sure Amazon won't either, but it's a security measure. If they see any suspicious login activity into the BGL applications, okay? You'll see an email. You might have seen this with your Outlooks or your Gmails as well. It is best practice to notify you where you're logging in. Some clients have seen unusual times. Just make sure your times are set on your PC to the correct time when you're logging in. Otherwise, you will see unusual hours pop up in the email. The other thing we added recently, this is inside our CAS Simple Fund and Simple Invest applications, is you can see activity log. All right, one of the things with the shared responsibility is you want to be just checking fairly frequently who's logging in to the SMSF and more private applications. So you can now do this. This is available in the user manager screen. Not every person who logs into Simple Fund can see this, but if you've got fairly high privileges, admin privileges in particular, you'll be able to see exactly when people have been logging into the software. Okay, so you can see there's an activity log that can be printed and see when people were last logging in. The other one we added recently was privacy. So we've got an enhanced privacy setting in the software, and we also added badge level. So what this does, we'll talk briefly about privacy. The privacy setting is in the user roles, as you can see there on the left of the screen. That user role setting has an enhanced privacy. What that does is if you're logging in from a remote area, you may have an offshore or onshore team, you can hide all the TFN type information on screen. Okay, so it's called enhanced privacy in the role settings. So have a think about turning that on. We do make it optional. Sometimes it can be a bit frustrating if you're in the office and it's all secure. You want to be seeing the TFNs, you can turn that on for particular users. There's also a more recent change that we made, which is in the badge settings. So this is under settings and then under badge in the software. And this is for both Simple Fund and our Simple Invest clients, where you can hide the TFN and the date of birth. So this is for the reports, okay? So when the reports get printed out, they will actually mask the TFN and the date of birth. So that's fairly new. If you haven't seen that, it was only added a few months ago, but we had a number of clients want to request that as best practice if they're sending out reports. Certainly, you know, in the world we live in, you know, those could be intercepted. So that's now available. Obviously, all the TFN still gets lodged to the tax office securely. It's not removing it, it's really just masking it in the printed reports. So that's under settings and badges. So I just wanted to cover that off for you. They're really some of the best practices that we wanted to show you today. We're going to open it up to questions now. We can see one come in here from Fabio. I might just unmute yourself, Clayton, as well, just if there's any other questions. There's one I can just see here: receiving email notifications even though I'm not changing my computer or location. Look, that's something, sometimes you might be getting a false notification from Cognito, but you should not be receiving them all the time. It might be potentially a VPN service if you're switching that on or off. It is tracking IP addresses, so it might be something also with your ISP provider constantly changing your actual IP address. So that's your identification. But we do have sort of, procedures, and I know Amazon do. We use their service Cognito. Clayton, did you have?
Yeah, I think you touched on the two key culprits that I'd look at with dynamic DNS or dynamic IP, sorry, with an ISP scenario might mean that it looks like your location is changing. Also caused by VPN services would be my two suspects, because we'll do things like device fingerprinting as you log into Cognito, and then do behavioral analytics where those things are changing. Advise if we see things like torn networks or VPNs or changes of these sorts of aspects as a suspicious login. You can configure that within the Cognito services of how much to dial up the kind of checking, but that would be my guess is why you're getting that notification. Probably a VPN service if you're using one.
Yeah, thanks for that, Clayton. Yeah, look, you can certainly contact us. We do have our logger support call function just to ensure. But I would certainly be just looking at the user logs as well, Fabio, just that I showed there before. Just in this particular screen, go into user manager and just see whether those match up. Ensure, just always be careful who's actually got access. There is fund level access there as well.
I'd come back to your point on MFA, and I definitely endorse prefer the TOTP authenticator mode versus the SIM mode. But if people are attempting and those notifications coming, that's your second control to prevent a login if keyloggers or these sorts of things have captured your usernames and passwords to log into systems. That MFA is another barrier, and I configure that on all services that I consume. So if you haven't configured MFA, definitely recommend move to MFA configured as on for any services where you're getting those sorts of notifications. I think you mandate it, don't you, Matt?
Yeah, we made it mandatory a year or two ago. So yeah, it's effectively mandatory now. It's just you do have the option to use SMS or the authenticator, but those authenticator applications, there's some good ones out there. They're effectively time locked, very similar to the SMS, but just not subject to, I know some of the banks have removed SMS notification for two-factor as well. So it's just one of these things, isn't it, Clayton, that the security, it's a constant battle. It's always changing. It's something you need to keep pace with, and that's really what we wanted to run this session today, is show you some of those new enhancements we've added, and also be aware of what we partner with Amazon. Any other questions we've got from our audience? No, it doesn't look like it. I'll keep the questions open a little bit longer. We're pretty much running right on time. This was designed to run for 40 minutes. So we've still got a few more minutes if anyone wants to just ask about Amazon or the BGL products. I'll leave it open for that little bit longer. Clayton, was there anything else that you sort of wanted to touch on?
No, look, I think, it was nice to see some of those new features that you've shipped around masking and things like that, and keeping, we have a principle of keeping users away from data that they don't need from a role basis, and that masking and redaction is a really good feature to reduce the risk of disclosures where they're not necessary. I think that's another really nice capability. But yeah, MFA, I rely on every service that I store my own personal data in. If it doesn't have it, it's basically a service that I don't use, because credential stuffing attacks and keyloggers and all of that, it's a pretty known threat model and way for people to log in, irrespective of where those systems are hosted. Yeah, spot on. And we also enforce strong password security. So we have beefed that up to make it's a little bit painful, but certainly following best practice around password creation. And it's also a good idea to change your passwords frequently as well.
So we've just got a couple of questions. Yes, it will be recorded, today's session, so you can
I can pick up. I used LastPass myself. I actually signed up reading their disclosure of an incident. You know, with the view that they're watching, they're responding. That's where I want to store my credentials. You know, I saw it as a place to store my own, and they do the TOTP with the LastPass authenticator, which is the same, you know, tokens that we're talking about, the Google Auth or Microsoft Auth. Many of them, it's a standard token generation algorithm. It's open source, and you can get it in pretty much all of your password managers these days that I know of.
Yes, I also use LastPass. For the clients that may not be aware, LastPass is effectively a third-party password storing application. There's a few out there. Certainly, LastPass has proven them time over the years. They've been around for a while, and I was actually just showing my 19-year-old son how to have one master password and turn on multi-factor. He was still storing his passwords in his browser. I don't think that's best practice. Really, LastPass sort of gives you an extra two-factor with password control. And Cheryl, yes, it does work. I use it regularly with BGL 360 applications. It also works with our mobile application as well. So you can install LastPass on your mobile device. So I think it works in all environments now, doesn't it, Clayton?
Yeah, I've used it for years and very happy with it. AWS console enforces the same TOTP consoles, and I use it for logging, you know, into my environment. It's good.
So we've just got one follow. Can you use LastPass selectively? There are some passwords I don't want stored there.
Yes.
Certainly you can. Yeah, you don't have to use it. It prompts you sometimes on some websites to use it. Other times you've got to put the details in manually, just depending on how well the website is got the password sort of field enabled for LastPass to pick it up. But yes, you certainly don't have to use it for ATO requirements. In fact, ATO is really have got their own sort of multi-factor authentication with their, I can't think of the name of it, but it has got its own multi-factor authentication.
Yeah, I do I think what I'm reading, I do that. I have, you know, different risk levels of passwords, and, you know, some I literally have in the safe and, you know, get them out never, infrequently. Some that I consider online and managed in the password manager, and some I really don't care about and I just store in the browser. You know, just click through, you know, junk mail type stuff that I really don't care about the servers protecting any of my data.
Yes, that sometimes you're just setting up a basic, have a look at this particular site.
Yeah.
Yes, certainly use the same. So I think that's really it for us today, Clayton. Thank you very much for joining us today. I don't think there's any more questions, and we're literally 2 minutes ahead of time. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks all.
Thanks, guys. There will be a recording of this available, and we will be sending that out to your email. Thank you very much.